you hiding in here? Who else is working for you?
The White Room is for my protection.
Protection from what?
From you, Mark. From you.
It feels so good not having to wait 3 years between seasons. Shout out to the creators for making this happen. We are back, and I'm here to discuss and break down this season 3, episode 1 of 3 episodes on its premiere day. Spoilers ahead. We open with Mark battling, or more like training, against the mentally minded 8-year-old one-eyed giant who we first met last season when he was taken down by the Guardians. We see Mark's confidence, but more importantly, he's gotten a lot, and I mean a lot, stronger than when we last saw him. We see this is all a part of Mark's training to protect the world with Cecil. As he's breaking records while lasting in lava for more than 7 minutes, he's physically better in every way since we last saw him last season, which the show states that it's been over 3 months since his last battle against Angstrom. His speed has increased 65%, his endurance is 70%, his strength is off the charts at 138% increase. As Cecil says, when they're through with Mark,
he'll finally live up to the name.
As we cut to Mark lifting the heaviest weight made by the GDA with ease, as Cecil sees no end in sight with the looming threat that a more powerful and more menacing Viltrumite could appear on Earth at any minute. As Rex watches Mark's progress, as a call comes in about someone trying to steal the Declaration of Independence, as Mark gets to test out his new skills and Rex tags along. Now as they head out, we see this GDA worker or scientist or someone with clearance to be here secretly messaging someone about where Mark and Rex are headed. But the question is, were they warning Paul? Were they working with the twins we're going to talk about here in a second? Or is it someone else entirely? Now here we're introduced to the twins, Fightmaster and Dropkick, who in the comics both come from the future, and their main mission is to stop a madman. Now Rex and Mark arrive on the scene, and they easily take out the twins, and we see Rex pressing Mark about not asking Eve out, with them both now being single at the same time. Now we see Rex's guard is completely down as he's kicked from behind by Multipol, who's seeking revenge for who he thought was his dead sister, and he's blaming Rex for letting her die. Now Mark sees that Rex is yet again on the verge of death, and he tries his best not to completely cause too much wreckage, but that only lasts so long as we watch him ripping through multiple Pauls by ripping their heads off and splitting their bodies in half. Now during all this, we see the twins actually get away, and we'll probably see them again later this season, but this is complete chaos and wreckage is happening as Mark tries to get to Rex, but he is surrounded by Paul, but in comes a surprise, and it's Immortal and Kate. Now, of course, Rex is happy to live, and he's also happy to see Kate's alive, but he's not that happy that she didn't inform him that she lived, but also her psychotic brother just almost killed him. Now, Mark isn't happy either. He doesn't care that Paul is Kate's brother and was attacking because he was thinking his sister was dead and getting some type of vengeance, as Mark demands that he goes to prison for the attack that led to the Declaration of Independence being stolen. Now, we see early on that Mark isn't as lenient as he was before and seeks justice for those who have done wrong, this coming back into effect a little bit later in this episode. Now back at the Graysons, we see that April and Debbie are impressed by Oliver's recent accelerated developments across the board. Now we see that Oliver and Mark seem to have grown closer in the last 3 months, and Oliver seems to be around the age of like 8 or 9 years old. Now as they play a game of catch, we see Oliver catches Mark off guard by making him promise he'll teach him how to be a hero once he's gotten his powers, as Mark's thinking that it'll be a while before that happens because it took him 70 years for his powers to kick in, but Oliver takes flight and hovers in the air to show him that they're already here. Now based on how the 3 months pass and how Oliver's almost 10 years old, it would be my best guess that by the time the season ends, he's going to be probably older than Mark. Now back at the Guardians headquarters, Rex shows the team that Kate is alive and Kate and Immortal are officially back, and they're also engaged. The Guardians are fully whole again as Shrinking Ray has fully recovered and rejoins the team as Black Samson says,
"Ain't nothing gonna stand up to us now. The family's back, baby. And unbreakable."
Yeah, it's great to see them all together, and I'm excited to see them in action again, but that last part about not being unbreakable sounds like foreshadowing to something tragic happening to this family at some point this season. Now back at the GDA, we see Donald inform Cecil about strange geological events across the map, but with Dr. Seismic still in their custody, they don't put too much thought into it for now, especially with Cecil seeing footage of Oliver getting his powers. Now we catch up with Mark, who's with William and his boyfriend Rick, who seems to be doing better since we last saw him. Now Mark shares with them his dilemma about what future Eve told him and looks for advice from the couple on how he should handle asking her out. Now we see that Rick's heart is still having pain from what Sinclair did to him back in season 1, which is a constant reminder for them, but plays a big part into Mark's anger towards the end of this episode and may be something to keep an eye out for the rest of this season when it comes to Rick. We cut to the next day where we see Debbie teaching Oliver about the importance of having a secret identity if he eventually wants to be a hero one day, and how important it is that he doesn't keep secrets like hiding his powers moving forward. Now after seeing that Oliver has his powers, we see Cecil paying them a visit as he continues to make the push that Oliver must train with him like Mark in preparation to defending the world for the oncoming fight against the Viltrumites and beyond. Now as usual, and rightfully so, we see Debbie standing her ground and she still and will never truly trust Cecil, but this conversation is cut short because Cecil gets the call that ties back to those geological events coming back into play. Now look, I don't blame Debbie for not trusting him because she's 100% right when it comes down to looking after and protecting her boys versus completing a mission for the betterment of the GDA and also the world. You can't trust him to make the decision that's going to keep them safe. Now after hearing the news, we see Oliver tries to sneak out in hopes to help this ongoing conflict, but he's caught by Debbie, who gets him to stay behind but promises that she'll allow Invincible to teach him before stepping into the role of being a hero. Now meanwhile, we catch up with Mark and Eve as we find out she's going to be going back to college part-time, as we watch Mark, who's struggling to get out his question to asking her out, but with the help of Eve, he eventually asks her out and she says yes, but unfortunately Mark puts his foot in his mouth and lets out the part about Eve's future self message to him, leaving Eve to thinking that he only did this because of that. But there is no time for this new couple to argue because Mark learns that him and Eve are the only heroes available after the rest have gone missing. As we see that even while being locked up, Dr. Seisman has been planning his attack on Earth by studying the heroes this whole time, and he's escaped his cell. As he gives the recently kidnapped heroes a stereotypical villain speech, he's got the advantage and he's seconds away from completing his mission, but in comes Eve and Mark. Now they're actually surprised to see what the doc was able to pull off, but neither one of them are taking him too seriously, so he decides to call in his new friends, who are creatures that have been buried in the depths of the earth, as well as calling in his lava buddies from back of season 2. Now we see Cecil makes the call to drop in some unexpected help as Eve and Mark try to hold their ground against these powerful creatures. As Eve tries to free the others, she's knocked out by the doctor, leaving Mark to fend off the creatures by himself. Now Mark gets stabbed in the chest, and we see the effects by this as the doc gets close and knocks Invincible out. Now once again, as the doctor gets close to completing his mission and killing off the heroes, in comes Cecil's surprise call, which is Darkwing 2 and Sinclair's reanimated cyborgs. Now the heroes are eventually set free and they're able to take out the surrounding enemies, but Mark isn't happy about the surprise help. Now after Darkwing 2 took the doctor to the Shadowverse and he knocks him out, which we see his allies run away and leaving the heroes victorious. Now again, Mark isn't happy. He doesn't thank Darkwing for saving them because of their last encounter and learning that he's a murderer, but also the cyborgs were made by the hands of a person who almost killed his best friend. Now Darkwing claims that he's a changed man and thanks Cecil, but this isn't enough for Mark. As Mark heads to the Pentagon to confront Cecil, who's prepared for his arrival. Now we end this premiere episode with seeing that Mark learns that Cecil is working with Sinclair as well as Darkwing because, as he says, they've been rehabilitated and they've been reformed and neither will kill again, and they both promise to save lives moving forward. Now Mark still isn't convinced, and we see Cecil turn the tables on him, and he brings up him killing Angstrom, and if he did that, should he be locked up for killing him? Now during this conversation, as they're walking and talking, Mark doesn't realize that he stepped into the White Room as he's still furious and he's seeking answers. He thinks that Cecil's hiding something. As we see, Cecil lets him know exactly why they're in here.
The White Room is for my protection.
Protection from what?
From you, Mark. From you.
Now we get our post-credits of this episode as we cut back to the prison where Alan isn't impressed by the food. He's still trying to get Nolan to end his solace and join him in the fight against his own kind. Now Nolan is aware of Alan's new strength after his upgrade and almost dying, and he knows that the Viltrumites will soon try to cut him open and study him, which they do. Which actually leads to Alan believing that he cares about his well-being, which means he's getting close to breaking through to him to get him back into action. Now look, I'm super excited and beyond happy to be back with this show and the characters, but as far as premiere episodes go, I think this episode was just okay. It wasn't terrible or bad, but it certainly wasn't good or great. Now, of course, this is one of 3 episodes that they released on premiere day, which at the time of this recording, I've only seen this one episode and we'll be watching the next 2 episodes after, but I'm hoping this one of 3 episodes is the weakest of the 3 and it's only going to get better from here. Now, don't get me wrong, it's nice to see that Mark is stronger, but when it counted, he still didn't get the job done. But one of my biggest nitpicks and also criticism of this premiere episode was how they made it seem like there was hundreds of heroes that were taken underground. But then when we go to the actual scene underground, I don't know if this was like for budgetary reasons, but it looked like there was only like 15 or 20 heroes at the most, which again just kind of took me out of the moment because I was expecting to see a bunch of heroes being locked up. But again, there weren't that many of them. Now, of course, I'm a fan of the action and the violence that this show has to offer, which I thought was solid. But again, for a returning first episode for a brand new season, I wanted more of a punch versus the soft launch that we got. But again, I anticipate episodes 2 and 3 will kick into gear and really deliver a bigger bite, and I'm about to watch them right now as we speak. So with all that being said, this will end my recap and breakdown of episode 1 of the new season of Invincible. Now, depending on the length of these videos and reviews, I might combine them into one large video or make them into their own individual videos, but either way, by the time this is on the channel, I'll have my breakdown of all 3 episodes available to watch now. If you guys appreciated my breakdown, I would love for you all to hit the like button, consider sharing this video, but more importantly, sharing your thoughts, your theories, your deeper meanings. What did you all think about this premiere episodes? And also, if this is your first time here, consider sticking around by subscribing to the channel today. So don't forget, you all are awesome, stay safe, and I'll see you all on the next video.